Okay, so now that we have gone through all of the steps necessary for contraction and getting to that sliding filament, what we have to look at now is what happens at the sarcomere. So remember, sarcomere has a Z disc and then a Z disc, right? So a sarcomere is from Z disc to Z disc, and I'm just going to slide this one over because I'm going to put another sarcomere over here, like so. Right? And remember that our thick filament, right, lines up in the center of the sarcomere on that, what we call M line, which is made up of the myomesin protein, right? So made up on that M line there. So let's go ahead and let's draw some thick filaments. And just do something like that. Our drawing doesn't have to be perfect. As Bob Ross would say, happy little thick filaments here. And we'll put the myosin heads on this side as well. Like so. And then we have to add in our thin filaments. So our thin filaments will look like this. And then we'll put one up here. And we'll put one here. And we'll put one here. Like so. All right. Now, so remember that our thick filament is going to go up, is going to bind to that thin filament, and it's going to pull it in this direction. And pull it in this direction. Pull it in this direction. And on this side, it's going to go up, it's going to bind, and it's going to pull it in that direction. It's going to pull it in that direction, pull it in that direction. Okay, but remember that this thick filament, right, this thick filament here is going to stay stationary. So let's go ahead and let's zoom out just a little bit here. We're going to move this up, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens when this muscle contracts. So we're going to take this and two things and we're going to pull them together. So we have our Z disc, so, and our Z disc like so. Notice our Z disc got closer, right? Z disc got closer. So we can still draw our M line. Okay, we can still draw our thick filaments. And we'll just put some above their heads just to show where they're at. Not overly important for this concept, but let's put them on there. Like so. Now, we have to draw our thin filaments, okay? But look, our thin filaments now, they come almost to the midline or close to the midline. Like so, okay? So notice what happens, right? Notice that this gets pulled in this direction, right? This gets pulled in this direction, and the same thing would happen over here, right? This would get pulled in this direction, and this sort of would get pulled in this direction, and end on end, right? The whole thing would get pulled towards the center, right? And so if we think about what a muscle looks like, right? You have a bone, right? And then let's say you have another bone over here that muscle is sort of attached to. right? And so we have our tendon, okay? Then we have our muscle, right? And so what happens, right, is as we pull this direction, right? That muscle sort of moves the bones towards one another, but what happens is that center of that muscle sort of bulges out, right? That belly of the muscle bulges out, and that's why you get sort of this like big bulge in the center of the muscle, right? But if we go back over to our sarcomere, notice that the overall length of the sarcomere, right, the sarcomere itself changed distance, right? So the sarcomere itself shortened. So this distance here, the sarcomere, shortened itself. Okay, notice that our H zone, the region in the center where we only had thick filament, that H zone shortened, right? And then if we look over here, right, this distance here, which would be the I band, right? The I band is going to shorten. But notice, right, that this A band, this distance of the thick filament, right, that A band stayed the same size, right? So when you look at the shortening of the sarcomere, right, so let's just go ahead and write this all out, right? So the sarcomere itself shortens. Okay, sarcomere shortens. Your H zone shortens. Okay. Your I band, the I band shortens. Okay. The A band has no change. No change. All right, so make sure that you understand those. Those are questions that love to appear on muscle physiology quizzes and exams, right? So what we can take a look and we can sort of see, right, what happens when we look at the sarcomere in a relaxed state, the sarcomere in a contracted state.